I'm glad you're here. Coach Deb is ready for today's Diva Dialogue. Here she is.
Hey, welcome to Diva Dialogue, the first one for the month of December. I can't believe how fast this year has gone by. It's just flown. But here on Diva Dialogue, we talk about whatever we want, and I try to bring some interesting guests in the studio. And this gentleman I'm just meeting for the first time. Tell us about you, John.
Well, my name's John. We got that part right.
We did.
And I just walked over here from around Lincoln Street, so it was a nice brisk walk.
Your cheeks are nice and rosy.
What's that?
Your cheeks are nice and rosy.
Yes, they are. And I'm an acupuncturist and a musician. And what would you like to know?
That's a good start. So that's, that on opposite ends of the spectrum, really.
Uh-huh.
So what were you first?
First a musician, I guess. And then I became a respiratory therapist to have something to fall back on when I was busy becoming a rock and roll star.
I hear you, yes.
And then I got tired of falling back, and I was living in New Mexico at the time, originally from Michigan. I was living out in Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Silver City for a while. And I, at one point, there was 3 acupuncture schools in the Albuquerque, Santa Fe area, and it kept popping up. And around 1990, I paid attention and went to school.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And graduated in 1994, and I'm 65. I'm still playing a lot of music and having fun with that. And so I do acupuncture, energy balancing, like balancing chakras and that kind of thing. And I stumbled onto a modality called frequency-specific microcurrent, which is pretty exciting.
Tell us about that.
Well, that was invented when electricity started permeating the country back in the 1920s. And what it is, it's isolating or discovering specific frequencies. Backing up a second, where everything is energy, and it's slowed down to become the planet and everything on the planet, and everything will resonate with specific frequencies, and every part of the body resonates with different frequencies. So they discovered that the peripheral nerves, for instance, will resonate to 396 hertz. And then you can, if the nerves are inflamed, they discovered somehow that 40 hertz will get rid of the inflammation in the nerves. And it goes on and on like that. There's just a multitude of frequencies involved with the body. And then it was made illegal by the AMA by the middle of the 1930s.
And why do you think that was?
Because they decided they'd make a whole lot more money, and I'm just my opinion, that they're going to make a whole lot more money. The AMA would make a lot more money doing surgery and medication. That's where they said everything else is going to be illegal, like homeopathy. And if you practice those things, they're going to take away your license to practice. So, so at this point, nobody really knows where the frequencies came from, who developed them, whether they were a gift from God or somebody just, something written on a rock or a tablet somewhere. And because they were legal, everybody took the machines and put them in the basement, and pretty soon that generation dies out. A couple generations later says, what's all this stuff? It was Grandpa's. We don't need it. Let's just throw it away. So that information just kind of left. And it resurfaced. It was alive and well in Canada, and then a lady, Carol McMakin, kind of brought it back in the 1990s. She's a chiropractor in Portland, and they happened to have a machine down in where she was practicing, and she's just like the foremost expert on these frequencies and how to use them and all that kind of stuff. Back when it started, it wasn't microcurrent. I'm not sure how much electricity they were putting through people, but now it's like not milliamps. It's below milliamps. It's microamps, like a 200 millionths of an amp.
And so if you came in for a treatment, would you have to be specific on what you wanted treated, or would the machine figure it out? Or
yeah, well, you have your major complaints, like shoulder pain or back pain, or fibromyalgia. Actually, especially if the fibromyalgia started with a back injury, like a car wreck where the back was involved, then you would run these frequencies, and it gets pretty involved after a while. There's parts of the brain that are involved in, for memory and guarding and all that kind of stuff, and it's pretty safe. The things that you need to be
pretty safe.
It's very safe actually. But the things you need to be aware of is you don't do it with somebody who's pregnant, because we're really not sure yet how it'll affect the fetus. You don't want to treat scar tissue before until after 6 weeks with an injury, because scar tissue has a job to do to isolate and hold things in place while the healing takes place, and then you can melt the scar tissue, and it literally melts.
Wow.
Here's the most popular story about this. Terrell Owens was a running back for the Eagles.
T.O.
Yeah.
Yes.
And 6 weeks before the Super Bowl, and I can't remember what year it was, whether 2006 or 2007, he got banged up really bad. He spiral fracture of the fibula, tore his deltoid, and a multitude of other bumps and bruises. And his doctor said, if he recovers, it's gonna, could be months, maybe even years, if he recovers. Well, his trainer was working with the 49ers at one point and met Carol McMakin and said, you got to come over here and we have to fix this guy because the Super Bowl is in 6 weeks. And so immediately after the treatment, she started running these frequencies for healing and inflammation and the different things that can be done. And 6 weeks later, actually just before the game, he tried to run. He couldn't run because of the scar tissue, and she melted the scar tissue, just liquefies, just like right then.
Wow, where does it go?
And just becomes part of the body, just gets excreted or used somewhere else.
Wow.
And he was able to run and almost single-handedly won the Super Bowl.
I kind of vaguely remember that, but wow, so that's pretty impressive. So you kind of have to know where to direct the frequency.
Yeah.
So an old neck injury would be good.
Yeah, it can be affected, sure.
Interesting. So you mentioned the brain about remembering stuff. If your memory's failing, it can help.
Well, if with an old injury, it's the brain is telling, say this is a shoulder thing. It says don't move this way because it's going to hurt. So you just don't move that way.
And then it gets frozen.
Yeah, and you can get rid of the pain for whatever reason through whatever modality, whether it's medication or acupuncture or physical therapy or what have you. But the brain is going to remember so that range of motion may not be affected until you can access that part of the brain to say it's okay, we can move now, that kind of thing. And it's really involved. I got through back in beginning of November. I was in Jacksonville, Florida for a really intensive 4-day seminar on this stuff. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
How many people were there?
32, I think.
Interesting. So I imagine there's not very many people doing it if there were 30.
Not many, although it's catching on. It's starting to catch on.
And what's the name of it again?
Frequency-specific microcurrent, FSM.
Interesting.
And there's other modalities out there that they're using frequencies, like the Rife machines. I think it's called Rife machines. Hulda Ruger Clark mentions it in her book, The Cure for All Cancers, or something like that. And that's like 20,000 hertz. It's a very, very high frequency to and the theory is that pathogens can't exist with that high of a vibration. And I don't have much experience with that at all, actually. But that's just another modality. And there's other things out there using vibrational healing. Well, acupuncture to me is vibrational healing. Prayer is vibrational healing.
Right, exactly.
My intent,
it's just different vibrations.
Yeah, my intent when I put a needle in is to accomplish something to balance this person so that they can heal themselves.
Right.
And my intent is, in actuality, a prayer. And that vibration is in the room, in the person, and it's up to them to balance or not.
Right, and I do Reiki. That's vibrational as well. We just had a drum meditation here on Saturday. Talk about vibrational therapy. That was amazing.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, that was really good. So it's weird how vibration really heals. It always surprises me still how it works when nothing else does very often.
Yeah, well, we were taught that there's a separation between the mind and the body.
And there's
there's that we are all one. We are of all of the same stuff. We're just broken up into different compartments so we can have either really cool or devastating experiences.
Either really cool or devastating.
And you can, but most people start from not so good, and then as we gain awareness, we can actually just start. We are changing the world.
Yes.
We are changing the world. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening. It may look like we're not doing really good, but because there's more light on the planet, all the bad stuff that was happening in the darkness is now exposed. There's not more bad stuff happening. It's just out in the open where people goes, wow, this is really stupid.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you wholeheartedly because it's just like personally, you can't fix a problem unless you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening now. We are aware of the problem, so now we're starting to do something about them. I don't want to get political, but my view is the same on that too. And same with the water crisis.
Yeah.
And Flint, and Flint's not the only place.
All
over here in Bay City, we're having problems. And it's the same thing. Had we not known about it, how can we find a fix?
Yeah, exactly.
And our bodies, that's one of the reasons why I love Deepak Chopra so much, because he calls it your mind body. It's all one thing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that language so much.
Yeah, me too.
Because all of us know somebody that has dwelt on bad things in their lives that were either in the past or going on right now, and watch them slowly get sick.
Yeah, it's that negative vibration which just attracts more negative vibrations. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally suffered from depression really horribly for a long time before I actually realized I was depressed. It was pretty amazing.
Oh, dear. Yeah. What did you think?
Just my life experiences brought me to that place.
And that's where you were dwelling and you were stuck on that low vibration.
Yeah, that was like around 2003, 4, something like that. 5, 6, I don't know. And so I didn't want to do any medication because I'm a musician. I had enough of those through the years.
Right. It's our age too that's what we did.
Yeah. And so I adopted "Don't Worry, Be Happy," from the song. Which is really easy to
Matata.
Yeah, that too. But it's a lot easier to say that than it is to actually do that. But just practicing, I'm just going to be happy.
Right.
Like I'll think of his name here in a minute. Mr. Happy is Jeff Yance wrote a song. I'm just going to be happy today. And you don't really even need a reason. Just be happy.
Right.
And then you change your vibration. You start attracting higher vibrational things. And pretty soon, damn, I'm just happy.
Right. And then you really don't need a reason to be.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm being a life coach. It's